What's up, everybody? Got a couple stories that we're going to get into real quick. I wonder if we're going to be able to draw any parallels, Gina Carano style, on these two. Wikipedia co-founder Larry Sanger slams the site's left-wing woke bias and claims its days of neutrality are long gone. For those of you who use Wikipedia at all, Snopes, same kind of thing. I think you know where this is headed, and I think you get it. Larry Sanger, 52, called an alleged bias on the site he co-founded disheartening in an interview for a Fox News analysis. He said the days of Wikipedia's robust commitment to neutrality are long gone. Sanger said he is now working on a new encyclosphere project, but he said he has hope Wikipedia could be fixed. His own Wikipedia page documents a long history of criticism against the site he co-founded. Wikipedia, where users can edit information to their liking. Interesting, right? Sanger, 52, called an alleged bias on the site he co-founded in January 2001 with Jimmy Wales disheartening in an interview for a Fox News analysis. According to his own Wikipedia page, Sanger has long been critical of the project and described it as being broken beyond repair in 2007. 2007, that was. Comparing 2007 to 2021, there's no comparison. We've come so far and fallen so far off the cliff that, wow, 2007, the days of Wikipedia's robust commitment to neutrality are long gone, Sanger said. This is him here. Wikipedia's ideological and religious bias is real and troubling, particularly in a resource that continues to be treated by many as an unbiased reference work. Wikipedia pages related to socialism and communism show how the website has become merely left-wing advocacy essays, according to Fox News. The two main pages for socialism and communism span a massive 28,000 words, yet they contain no discussions about the genocides committed by socialist and communist regimes, in which tens of millions of people were murdered and starved, the Fox News analysis claims. Sanger told the outlet he is now working on an encyclosphere project, but said he doesn't think Wikipedia could be salvaged. Sanger's woes with the company were first revealed in 2004, when he wrote an article for the website Kiro 5 Hien, probably not pronouncing that right. Sanger's article claimed that Wikipedia, which calls itself the free encyclopedia that anyone can edit, is not perceived as credible by librarians and academics because it lacks a formal review process and is anti-elitist. In 2007, Sanger criticized Wikipedia again after the launch of Citizendium, another wiki-based encyclopedia he created to address the flaws with Wikipedia. Sanger said Wikipedia was broken beyond repair and had a whole series of scandals, from serious management problems to frequently unreliable content, according to IT News. The techie again distanced himself from Wikipedia in September 2009 when he claimed, "I thought that the project would never have the amount of credibility it could have if it were not somehow more open and welcoming to experts." The other problem was the community had essentially been taken over by trolls to a great extent. That was a real problem, and Jimmy Wales absolutely refused to do anything about it, Sanger told the Internet Revolution. Sanger sent a letter to the FBI in April 2010, claiming that Wikimedia Commons was hosting child pornography, according to a BBC article. "I think Wikipedia never resolved the problem of how to organize itself in a way that didn't lead to mob rule," Sanger said in an interview with Vice in November 2015. Vice, another interesting organization. People that I would say are trolls sort of took over. The inmates started running the asylum. In the Vice interview, Sanger equated the alleged trolls that took over the platform with modern-day SJWs. He again called Wikipedia a broken system in a May 2019 interview. His page noted, he said the leaders did not come up with a good solution to stop bad actors from running the project. Sanger described Wikipedia as badly biased in a May 2020 blog post in which he claimed the site no longer had an effective neutrality policy. The notion that we should avoid false balance is directly contradictory to the original neutrality policy, As a result, even as journalists turn to opinion and activism, Wikipedia now touts controversial points of view on politics, religion, and science, he wrote. Wikipedia. They hit you up for donations often when you visit there. I only visit there when I'm looking for something factually based, which, according to this, if they are really editing out the horrors of communism and socialism, who's to say that what we know as being factually based is even reported on that site? How does that tie in with this story? Tennessee man 95, who served as a concentration camp guard, is deported back to Germany and handed over to cops after living in the US for 60 years. 60 years, you wonder how somebody could fly under the radar for so long. Friedrich Berger, 95, was sent back to Germany for serving as a guard of a camp subcamp in 1945. He has been living in the United States since 1959, but was ordered expelled by a court in Memphis, Tennessee in February 2020. So I guess it makes you wonder where he was at between 1945 and 1959. He claimed he only served as a guard for a couple of weeks at the end of the war when he was 19 and did not observe any abuse or killings. More than 40,000 prisoners died in the Neuengamme system, records show. He arrived Saturday at Frankfurt and was handed over to Hesse state investigators for questioning. German prosecutors in Celle, probably pronouncing that wrong, had shelved a case against him in December because they were unable to refute his accounts of his service at Neuengamme. Interesting. Even if they were not able to refute, I could see how the United States wouldn't want to deal with that. From a PR perspective, ship him back, let the Germans deal with that. He will be questioned by authorities in Germany to determine whether accessory to murder charges could be brought. The deportation of Berger was possibly the last such U.S. expulsion of a former Nazi, given the dwindling number of war survivors, one official said. So I get that. He was 19 at the time, 95 now. You would certainly imagine that most of them are long gone. In recent years, German prosecutors have successfully argued that by helping a death camp or concentration camp function, guards can be found guilty of accessory to murder, even if there is no evidence of them participating in a specific killing. According to an ICE statement, Berger served at the subcamp near Meppen, Germany, where prisoners, Russian, Polish, Dutch, Jewish, and others, were held in atrocious conditions and were worked to the point of exhaustion and death. Berger admitted that he guarded prisoners to prevent them from escaping, and with the advance of Allied forces, Berger even helped guard the prisoners during their forcible evacuation to the Neuengamme main camp after the Nazis abandoned the subcamp at Meppen. The 2-week move in March 1945 claimed the lives of some 70 people. In an interview last year with the Washington Post, he expressed disbelief at the possibility he might be deported, saying he was only 19 years old while serving at Meppen, was unarmed, and was following orders. And that's often the defense they try to say. I was just following orders. But it looks to me, kind of thinking through this, if the Germans weren't able to refute his account, they tell us here about 40,000 prisoners. They make sure to repeat it a couple times. That seems to be irrelevant. It's the time frame which he is there. All of that's irrelevant to me, maybe to them as well, but what they need to be looking at, or what they're probably looking at, is what they talk about right here. That 2-week move where it claimed the lives of some 70 people. If he was taking part in that in any way, that would seem to me that that's how they're going to try to tie him to it. That even if he didn't directly have some involvement in putting hands physically on somebody, that during the process of moving these prisoners from one camp to another, that 70 of them died, that they could try to pin that on him in some way. Whether or not that's something you think is valid, legit, that's just something I'm thinking about. Maybe it's a PR move by Germany, I don't know. Here's something interesting here. It says here the Justice Department drew evidence from both US and European archives, including records of the historical trial at Nuremberg, one of the most notorious former leaders of the defeated Nazi regime. In 1979, the US government created the Justice Department Office of Special Investigations, dedicated to finding these individuals. The department said Saturday that the program had won cases against 109 individuals. The last deportation was of 95-year-old former SS guard Jacques Polish, definitely pronounced that one wrong, who had lived in New York since 1949 and was expelled in August 2018. This year marks the 75th anniversary of the Nuremberg trials, in which jurists from the Allied powers tried prominent Nazis under international law. 12 defendants received death sentences and were hanged. So perhaps there is some kind of PR move. So perhaps this guy is some kind of pawn in a PR stunt. Oh, 75th anniversary, look what we've got for you. Got another one. Now it's interesting that they set it up in 79 and that it says here only 109 cases were won. So that's good. I mean, that obviously means there weren't a lot of those individuals here. So over a 40-year span, that's an average of, 2 to 3 per year. That makes you wonder, though, were there a ton that escaped? Obviously, we've heard that they've fled to other countries, some places in South America. Are there still individuals that are here alive that have been able to slip under the radar? But as I said, I mean, they're so old. Most of them probably died off in the 2000s, 2010s, the 90s even, if they were even here. So it's interesting that they're trying to do this. Now, I'm not saying that it's legit or not. That's for Germany to decide. I would just point back to what happened in December in Germany, that with them not being able to refute things, what led to this starting up again? Do they have more information now than they did back then? It was just a few months ago. So I guess we'll pay attention to this and see what happens. Comment here says ridiculous, leave him alone. In spite of what I just talked about, I'm not really on board with that. If they have the evidence and they can prove it, then he'll get dealt with how he needs to get dealt with. And if they don't have the evidence, then, what can you do, right? But as I said, and I'll just wrap it up here, my thought is, optics-wise, from the U.S. perspective, definitely. If they want him, they can have him. If they want him for whatever reason, you want to push away as far as possible from that kind of stuff. Now, drawing the parallel real quick, maybe, and it's really loosely based, but if you think about, and this is rudimentary understanding of how, the HH guy came to power, but it's manipulation of people's minds. And if you're able to turn people against one another, which is what Gina Carano was talking about, if you're able to turn neighbor against neighbor, if you're able to turn people against each other in the name of some kind of authoritarian system, then you can end up with a situation where certain individuals, authoritarian in nature, rise to power and continue to crank up that authoritarian meter more and more on the opposition. That's how I saw what she was saying. I agree with it. You have to tiptoe lightly when making such analogies, especially when you're somebody that Twitter has tried to come after so many times. Any kind of misstep, they're going to look to come for you, which definitely proved her point. And the point was that you have individuals coming after fellow citizens, which needs to be stopped before it rises to a certain level. And so what did she get for saying stop coming after individuals in such a way? She got canceled. Interesting how that worked out, right? Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Be well.